Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome you all to this round regulatory conversation on maritime sector reforms. May we please rise for the national anthem. My name is Cynthia Akwamudiari. I'm Director for Stakeholder Relations at the CBI. We're going to be singing it. And there will be a second stanza, which is the opening prayer. Let's go. Arise, compatriots, Nigeria, all obey to serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith, the labor of our never be vain, to serve with heart, mind, one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity. O God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know. In love and honesty, to grow and live in just and true. Great lofty heights attain, to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign. Do we want to say the pledge? My country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest, to serve Nigeria with all my strength, to defend her unity, and uphold her honor and glory, so help us God. Amen. Thank you very much. And so, I will call on, the Chief Executive Officer of the Convention on Business Integrity and the Integrity Organization, Mr. Soja Pampa, to give the welcome address. Thank you.
Before I give my address, let me start by inviting all the participants in the opening session. Let me start with our guest of honor, representing Dr. Madeline Ajayi, Permanent Secretary, Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Transportation, is Mr. Babatunde Sule. If you could please come to the podium. If we can also have the representative of the Managing Director, CEO of the Nigeria Ports Authority, NPA, Engineer Ngini. Please. If we can have also the representative of the Executive Secretary, Nigeria Shippers Council, Mr. Moses Fadipe. And if we can also have the representative of the Managing Director of the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network, the Associate Director of Maritime Anti-Corruption Network, Mr. Vivek Menon. Okay, so that would be the participants in the opening session. And if I may start by welcoming us. My name is Olusoji Akpampa, and I'm one of the founders of the Convention on Business Integrity. Today, we hope we'll be discussing the maritime sector reforms, consolidating the gains, which means today is not about the problems. Today is about the gains. So in my welcome, permit me to talk about the problems, therefore, since we're going to spend the rest of the day talking about the gains. Just as a reminder that we have things going on very well. We have seen a lot of changes, and I will not go into the details of the changes, but we know that the changes are more on land than they are offshore. The changes are more in Lagos than if you go to the eastern ports. So we would like, those are some of the challenges that still remain to make sure that the changes permeate the whole sector. That's the first thing, especially around vessel clearance. When it comes to cargo clearance, we know a lot has changed and improved there as well. But again, it has been tested in a few port concessions. It's not everywhere. It's not every port at which these changes have now taken place. Consolidation means driving those changes into all of those places as well. And today is about those changes. So I won't go into those details. Then we cannot leave out the fact that as we were changing and improving things on the vessel side, the land side became the problem. As we improved things on the land side, the internodal transports coming out and going into the ports then became the problem. And there we still have severe challenges, great challenges. So we know that outward leg from the port has been cleared. We're reminded constantly that there is work to be done on the inward leg, and that is acknowledged. We know that although it's been cleared here in the western ports, a lot more work still needs to be done in the eastern ports, and that too is part of the consolidation. We know that the issues of access where we have infrastructural challenges continues to be a problem, especially in the Lagos ports. And we know that a system has been put in place. There have been discussions and challenges about who has been displaced as a result of these changes. Those things still need to be worked out. We know that the illegal checkpoints continue to disappear during the day and reappear at night, or move away from the inward leg and reappear on the outward leg. We understand all of those challenges are still there. Maritime truck drivers still complain of harassment. And we learn of imprisonment of the owners of trucks that get involved in any accident in which there's a fatality. That the owner of the truck actually then goes to jail for life. It's not just any kind of jail. It's jail for life. So there are still lots of issues to discuss and debate, but today is not the day for discussing the challenges and the issues. So I hope with these few words of welcome, I would now like to turn us to think about what is actually working and how can we consolidate on what is working and make sure that it permeates everywhere. So permit me to invite very quickly Mr. Vivek Menon to give us his welcome address on behalf of the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network. Mr. Menon.
Ladies and gentlemen, very good morning to you. Thank you. I've learned this now over a period of, was it 4 years now, 2019, when I first had the opportunity to come and visit the industry, the Nigerian maritime industry. And I've learned a lot. I've seen witnessed quite a lot of things, in most importantly the hospitality of people of Nigeria, but also the progress that is being made in this specific sector. And it's very important to reflect on the progress that is made. And I want to thank Soji for highlighting some of those. I want to speak about that a little bit, and then, as again rightly what Soji said, to deliberate on this, how we pick up on the gains that have been made. And I also want to underscore that these gains have been shared not just within the MACN context. Many other countries are looking at Nigeria from a sector-driven reform. How do you put that into practice? That is also being looked at from many trading nations globally. And I see this when we have our discussions with other governments. But I want to quickly talk about, not about MACN, many of you may be familiar with it, but also to highlight that among our various global involvements and partnerships that we have had, the work in Nigeria, or the experience in Nigeria, has been very, very unique. Why has it been unique? It's simply because of the level of commitment that has been expressed by the Nigerian maritime industry, both the public sector and the private sector, who have effectively collaborated between the stakeholders, and also importantly the update of procedural reforms that we have seen over a period of time in all levels of administrations and the private sector. So this is very important to bear in mind, and it also comes from a particular attitude that's the attitude of dedication. There are very many individuals in the respective agencies and in the industry who are so dedicated and committed, and they show a lot of enthusiasm that has led to such sectorial reforms. And I can only speak on behalf of the maritime sector, and I've seen personally some of these so-called progress, maybe not change, but progress, clear progress. And many of you are familiar with this. I want to quickly highlight some of those. You're familiar with the Nigerian Port Process Manual, the publication of the Nigerian Port Process Manual and the standard operating procedures, the founding of the Port Standing Task Team, which is comprising of the Ports Authority, Nigeria Ports Authority, Nigeria Shippers Council, the Department of State Services, Security Services, and also the ICPC. And they have really operationalized some of the work that we have done in enforcing and improving transparency and accountability in the ports. And then further on, we also have this Port Service Support Portal and an active or a ready to use help desk or a helpline, however you want to use it. And they provide a round-the-clock service for any person who is struggling to find what is required of the regulation and how do you comply with it. So compliance has been an integral part of this. So these are some of the gains many of you may be familiar with. But what's also important, you know, that we didn't stop there. We went on to building what we call a compliance framework. And when I say we, it is the government of Nigeria that has taken the stride to say, how does government institutionalize a compliance framework within their own respective agencies? And we have seen that time and again, that various steps have been taken, both in terms of reform, but also from an operational perspective. How can you drive a compliance framework with the respective agencies? Then you may ask, why is it relevant to have such a framework? At least from the industry where I come from, at least the maritime industry, let alone other industries, compliance is a very important function. It simply shows the reliability of that industry, the efficiency of that industry, and how well functioning it is. It also ensures that there is safety and security of the individuals who work in that industry. It is also a mechanism to prevent crime and also the avenue for reduction of losses. And I remember reading some numbers from the industry bodies that there's about $7 billion loss as a maritime industry in Nigeria. But if you look at other countries as well, there is probably even more such losses. So it's not just loss that's happening on a daily basis or an annual basis, but there is also an opportunity loss that we are missing. The opportunity to do business further, not just externally, but also within the region. So a compliance function or a framework could actually aid to that. So therefore, the with the advent of the AFTA trade agreement, there is a significant amount of opportunity which can be met through such functions. How did we do this? Again, these conferences that we host, the roundtable events, it brings both the sectors, public sector and the private sector together. The work that we do in other countries at the MACN, I must say that it's quite challenging to get both the sectors to come together in the same room. It is a very difficult task. They would rather work in their own agencies, and then it becomes even more difficult to have even a conversation. We have seen that very different in Nigeria. We are very open to talk about the challenges, and that is where I think we have picked up, and that is itself is a gain, so as to speak. So these roundtable conferences that we've hosted for the last, I think this is the third one, if I'm correct. The last two have focused on how can the heads of the agencies, that's where we focus to bring them together, bring the private sector together. We have the Integrity Alliance, many of you are represented here today, and I'm very happy to hear that there are more than 200 local private sector are part of the Integrity Alliance. Nowhere today we have seen such alliance come together and share their challenges, but also probably their success with the rest of them, together with the public sector. So what we were able to do is find a way how we can institutionalize this compliance function or the framework of compliance within the respective agencies, and also to explore sanction-based compliance. That is what we call the negative incentives. But at the same time, how do we reward people? How do we have a reward-based compliance function so that our ports and terminals become fully efficient and effective? For a country like Nigeria, like many others as well, who depend heavily on export and import, the ports and terminals are literally the heart, in my opinion. It basically pumps the blood into the country, into the region, and to the globe. So we need to have operational efficiency, and we believe that's also where the government is trying to take very many strides in improving that function within the respective organizations. So has brought in a lot of gains as well from where we started. In the first meeting, the Honorable Minister of Transport, represented by the Permanent Secretary, she basically presented a milestone that we all should aim for. 80% was referred to, 80% of compliance of standard operating procedures. That's a big step. And then in December last year, we saw all the agencies were here reporting to that, presenting their success stories, how they were able to push compliance within their respective organizations. And also very importantly, more recently, the encouragement of institutionalization of a compliance function through the Executive Order 001. That is the ease of doing business discussion has been going on for many years, but I think this step adds to the gains that Nigeria has taken for many years. And that itself is an important thing to remember. More and more, I think the work that has been done so far has amplified the previous work. For example, the recognition of NPPM and the SOPs and the usage of the port standing task team has also been supported by the private sector using the grievance reporting mechanism. At least from MACN's member perspective point of view, I can see with the growth of the number of companies, we see a rise in usage of the system because they trust the system. And today, the private sector is directly engaging with the public sector when they have challenges. And that's an important gain to keep in mind. In other words, what I would like to say is that these conversations that we are having has aided or has acted as a catalyst for achieving efficiency and quality service delivery, thereby improving the compliance and rules and procedures. Ultimately, we are able to at least, if not eradicate the risks of integrity, we are able to at least bring them down. What we also see is this has somehow laid a foundation, if I may call it, of how do you define, how do you prevent, how do you detect, how can someone respond, and also how can you evaluate ethical and operational challenges in the port sector. When you talk about compliance, generally it's a very private sector thing. I mean, coming from the private sector, I can say that many of them think it's a very private sector initiative, and they do this all the time, but it's not seen that openly in the public sector. But in Nigeria, we see it. We've been working with the government to enable that. So going back to what I said in the beginning, the work that Nigeria has demonstrated, the progress that you have made, which is very important to recognize. Yes, we have challenges, we need to constantly work with them, but these progress that you have made is recognized by many other countries that we work in. It has got international attention. You may have seen that there was a clear recognition by the international community on the ports and terminal sector in Nigeria, how they have made progress in the journey that you took 10 years ago. There's a huge recognition, and it is seen as a role model. Some of them call it the Nigeria miracle, but these days some of them call it as a blueprint that other nations would like to adopt. Now, we could not have achieved this without the intentional and consistent backing throughout all the respective agencies. Many of you are represented here, and also the industry. The private sector is equally needs to be acknowledged here. So to that, I would like to say, ladies of the institutions and the industry, we thank you for taking us through that process. But this conference, or today, we are here to discuss how we can sustain. As we say on board ships, I worked on ships for many years, all hands remain on deck, and we want more hands on deck. What I mean by that is, we cannot lose the ball now. Therefore, I believe that in this round table, we can use this opportunity, and it is our appeal to kind of reinforce the efforts that are being taken. We need to build on the gains to see how we can strengthen the gains that we have achieved. So I want to say that I'm very grateful to be back, and grateful to see many of you that we have met before, and we hope that we can bring the broader Nigeria Maritime community together to see how we can show more progress in the coming years. With that, I would like to say
wow. Thank you very much for taking us on that 10-year journey. Something struck me from what you said. The language has indeed changed in Nigeria. The old language used to be enforcement. And today we talk more of compliance than enforcement. Enforcement just suggests that whether you know, you don't know, they just force you to do it. But now it's more inspiration, getting people to do the right thing, and using both incentives, positive incentives and negative incentives to control the behavior of people. I think, yes, we didn't even realize that change was so profound, moving from enforcement to sanctions. I think now I will invite, and I have a second chance to redeem myself, because I murdered his name the first time round. But I would, I would like to call on Engineer Igini, the General Manager Administration for Nigeria Ports Authority, who's representing the MD CEO, to give us his welcome remarks. Engineer Igini. I hope I was perfect this time. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Permit me to sustain the protocols already established. Like he said, Managing Director of Nigerian Ports Authority, Mohammed Koko Bello, is unavoidably absent on account of other consuming national assignments. So I stand in his stead to deliver this goodwill message to this gathering. It is indeed a great pleasure to take part in this roundtable titled Maritime Sector Reforms, Consolidating the Gains. It's also pleasing for Nigerian Ports Authority to join efforts with you at this stage of our project that started 10 years ago with other agencies to fight corruption in Nigerian ports sector. The reason for our gathering, as you may know, is rooted in our understanding of what has brought us for a long time some harm to our economy as a nation. This monster called corruption has destroyed the integrity of our fellow Nigerians and crippled port businesses as well as other businesses in other sectors. Corruption in Nigerian ports has created a hostile environment for both the international and local businesses and has hampered foreign investment and in turn endangered development in our economy. This is because Nigerian Ports Authority, as the first port of call, and of course with other agencies in the port, constitutes the gateway to our economy. The impact and activities of these agencies with Nigerian Ports Authority creates an image for the country in the international system. The interpretation of this image and encounter at the ports remain crucial to what happens to our economy, given the international playing field. Port users, as you then know, determine the country's status in international trade. And our business style and character determine and establish how well and how Nigeria is referred to in the international market. In the circumstance, we have to use all instruments available to us to reduce corruption in our port industry and reverse whatever damage may have come to our image in the international community. This is why the management of Nigerian Ports Authority remains committed to fighting corruption in concert with other agencies, CBI and Maritime Corruption Network. As well, in line with the President's commitment, Mr. President's commitment to rid the Nigerian port sector of all corrupt practices. Our vision is, as a port authority, is to be the preferred port of logistics in Africa. Nigeria has a great potential and opportunity in Africa because it has enormous human capacity and resources to extend international trade and penetrate the African continent, particularly with the emergence of deep sea ports in Nigeria. Nigeria can therefore become the preferred trade hub and a trade giant if we all work in concert and create the enabling environment through this issue of ease of doing business in our ports and environments. Furthermore, the federal government's pursuit for all non-oil export to revamp the ailing Nigerian's economy can only be successful if we curtail corruption and ensure that this ease of doing business takes root. This is a dream we must all pursue tenaciously to return our ailing economy back to a sound track. It is particularly pleasing to note that Nigeria is receiving positive responses on the reduction of corruption because of the achievements of this 10-year-old project. However, we must not relax and, as we put it, resting on our oars because we have achieved notable milestones. We must therefore intensify efforts towards sustaining these goals and achievements. Our achievements can only be celebrated as it is if these gains can be sustained. Fighting corruption and sustaining our achievements require honest commitment and decisive actions from all of us. Every agency in the port is therefore invited to play its role to ensure compliance to the SOPs and develop strategies to track and correct non-compliance to the SOPs and other documents such as the Port Process Manual. We must collectively identify the effective tools available for us to fight corruption. We can only put these tools to use if we collaborate and share information and brainstorm over these ideas. That's the only way to surmount the challenges and enable us to move to the next step in this project. The participation of NPA as a landlord is key to the success of the anti-corruption campaign in the ports. And the authority will continue to improve on its services and ensure that its SOP is respected and followed diligently. Currently, Nigerian Ports Authority is part of the Port Standing Tax Team and the extended Port Standing Tax Team working tirelessly to implement the Nigerian Port Process Manual and the ease of doing business. We will continue to sensitize port users on these documents and will support the work of the Port Steering Committee, which midwifed these documents, and of course the Port Standing Tax Team, as well as the Anti-Corruption Transparency Unit activities of its agencies and other agencies to enhance efficiency, improve competitiveness and productivity that will improve the reputation of Nigerian ports at the international scene. We wish to commend the Federal Ministry of Transportation, the CBI, and the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network for organizing these roundtables from time to time to enable us to chart the way forward. Finally, we at Nigerian Ports call on all agencies in the ports to embrace this determination and collaborate to bring corruption to its knees so that together we can align the Nigerian ports with the international best practices. I wish on behalf of the management and Nigerian Ports Authority and the Managing Director to welcome all of us to this gathering. And thank you for having your time.
Thank you very much, sir. Please, a warmer round of applause. In fact, the better the applause, the warmer we get. Thank you very much. Now representing the Executive Secretary CEO of the Nigeria Shippers Council, Honorable Emmanuel Jime, is Mr. Moses Fadipe.
Let me say a very good morning to all here present, and permit me to acknowledge the presence of the Permanent Secretary, ably represented by the Director of Maritime Services, Mr. Babatunde Sule, to stand on existing protocol. I'm here on behalf of my CEO, Right Honorable Emmanuel Jime, who is unavoidably absent due to official engagement with the Honorable Minister of Transportation, to give his address at the third Compliance Maritime Sector Roundtable Reforms on Consolidating the Gains here at Providence Hotel. The message you'll be hearing from me henceforth is that of my CEO. It is a pleasure to deliver this address here today, where we are going to discuss a wide range of issues under the theme Maritime Sector Reforms and Consolidating the Gains. You will recall there's a long journey. This is a journey started in March 2021, and we had the privilege and opportunity to have the scorecard in December 2021. And we had another scorecard in December 2022 under the chairmanship of the Ministry of Transportation. And in those occasions, we're looking at the red flag, we're looking at the amber, moving into the green light. So today, May, we'll be driving and concentrating more on the gains made and how we can sustain and consolidate. So I thereby want to thank the Federal Ministry of Transportation, as represented by Permanent Secretary, for chairing this event, and all the agencies, commands, and stakeholders who have taken time out of their busy schedule to be here. And I equally want to express my appreciation to the organizers of this event, particularly the Convention for Business Integrity Nigeria, Integrity Alliance, and the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network, represented by Mr. Vivek Menon. I welcome you to Nigeria once again. I acknowledge your effort in promoting the ethical business practices and creating a platform for meaningful discussions on the challenges facing the maritime sector. Over the years, the maritime sector in Nigeria has undergone numerous reforms aimed at achieving operational efficiency and improving the service delivery to stakeholders. And these reforms have brought about significant improvements, but we cannot rest on our laurels. And that's what everybody is saying. We must just hold the ball. We must concentrate on the gains made so far and continue to strive for excellence. And taking you a little bit back, you remember the SOPs and the harmonized SOP in 2016. We talked about the executive order in 2017. And we talked about the Nigerian Process Manual launched in 2020. And here we are, 2022, the Business Facilitation Act. So, this is an opportunity here today to review the degree of adherence to the SOPs of various agencies in the maritime sector. And this is crucial if we need to achieve the targets we have set for ourselves. We must identify challenges faced by these agencies and offer solutions to the existing constraints. The Nigerian Shippers Council, in accordance with our mandate, is focused on improving the efficiency of port operations and reducing the cost of doing business in Nigerian ports. And the Council engages in various activities, such as monitoring and regulating the activities of the shipping companies, terminal operators, and other port agencies and stakeholders in the port. Furthermore, the Council provides guidance and support to shippers, ensuring that they are aware of their rights and obligations under the law. Ultimately, the mandate of the Council is to ensure that the Nigerian port sector operates at international best practices, thereby contributing to the overall development economically in our country. So the Council remains committed to ensuring that the maritime sector operates at its optimal level. And we will continue to work with all stakeholders to promote and adhere to the SOPs. We believe that this will lead to greater operational efficiency, which in turn will enhance service delivery and ultimately benefit all port stakeholders. We are committed to under and ancillary services responsibilities in the pursuit of the ultimate goal of fostering transparency and efficiency in the industry, as this can be attested to by the Port Standing Tax Team, who is equally present here today. And let me say thank you to Nigerian Shippers Council for providing tremendous support to the tax team in its mandate to promote operational efficiency and reduce the turnaround time for vessels at our ports, streamline cargo clearance, and carry out the necessary measures to dismantle the traffic logjam, foiling corruption within the port logistics ranks. They've worked tirelessly to ensure that the PSTT is equipped with resources needed to carry out its functions effectively. But however, I must emphasize that there is still much work to be done. We cannot achieve our goals without the full buy-in of all stakeholders here present, because togetherness and collaborating, we can get to our destination. I plead with all stakeholders to support the PSTT and play their part in achieving a shared vision for the maritime sector. The sector should be positioned to leverage on the opportunity of the newly enacted Business Facilitation Act 2023, which is a transmutation from the Executive Order 001 of the federal government on the ease of doing business policy. The law is a significant milestone for the Nigerian economy, as it aims to streamline business processes and promote investment in the country. As we look to the future, it is envisaged that the PSTT, which came about as an instrument of implementing the ease of doing business policy in the port sector through monitoring and enforcement of the Nigerian Port Process Manual and other additional responsibilities, will play a crucial role in laying the foundation for institutionalizing the Business Facilitation Act in the port sector. The tax team has already shown great potential in enforcing adherence to the rules and procedures in a very professional manner, and we are committed to further developing the team as a key enabler of transparency and efficiency in the Nigerian port sector. I urge all agencies, stakeholders to actively participate in the discussion that will take place here today. Let us share our experiences, our successes, and our failures. And let us work together to find solutions to the challenges facing us. Let us consolidate the gains that we have made so far and continue to strive for excellence in our port sector. I feel honored on behalf of Right Honorable Emmanuel Jime for this opportunity to speak to you, and I look forward to a productive discussion that will yield positive results for this crucial sector and the nation's economy. Once again, I say good morning.
Thank you. Thank you for that warm applause. Okay. Now I would like to invite Dr. Madeleine Ajani, the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Transportation, represented by Mr. Babatunde Sule. Thank you very much, sir.
Good morning, all. I bring greetings from my Permanent Secretary, Dr. Magdalene Ajani, who is unavoidably absent. I hate to use the word, I just want to say it as it is. A letter was written to us, and we agreed, she agreed that we will share this session and the one that will be coming up also in September. Only for us to detect that today, we never knew there would be a fake memo to be presented by the ministry. So there are memos, so she would have loved to be here. And that is why the MD of MPA is not here. So he's saying national assignment. So some of the memos that will be presented are from MPA. So that's why the MD is not here. So on that note, I just want to say that she sends her warm greetings to members, to participants, and that God willing, by the time we are holding the 4th, this is the 3rd, in September, that she will attend. So she has prepared an address that I should present on her behalf. And on that note, I want to start by saying the Executive Director, Maritime and Corruption Network, the Executive Director, centered, distinguished stakeholders, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. The PAMSEC was given a topic on the compliance. Federal Ministry of Transportation's watch has achieved several successes in the last decade. Among these successes, post users are able to demand, track, and ensure greater compliance with standard operating procedures, SOPs by government agencies. Incidences of corrupt demands as it relates to vessel clearance have reduced, and government capacity to establish policy on compliance systems and collaborate with the private sector and civil society to improve trade flows and the ease of doing business. The Technical Unit on Government and Anti-Corruption Reforms, TUGA, and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offenses Commission, ICPC, in collaboration with Maritime Anti-Corruption Network, MACN, and the Convention on Business Integrity, CBI, Nigeria, have built momentum from these successes, creating a prime policy where the Nigerian maritime sector is poised to augment its standing by further institutionalizing and continuously sustain its reforms. The regulatory policy has acted as a catalyst for achieving efficiency and quality service delivery. Is to highlight, solicit support, and synergize with the leadership of port agencies on how best to deploy disciplinary resources already allocated to enforce compliance, especially the formations that are outside the direct oversight of the highest ranking cadres of the port agencies. The roundtable should explore the ways in which a stronger compliance function through sanction-based compliance policy, that is negative incentive, and the discussion will also emphasize the importance of compliance. Agency representatives should share best practices, participants,